Hey guys, welcome to Electronic Dance Money, your #1 business resource for making money as electronic musicians and producers. Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Electronic Dance Money. I'm your host, Christian Casito. We're back with Darran Bruce from the DJ Sessions, part 2. We're going to be diving into some copyright stuff. Darran, how are you doing? How was your holiday?
It was great. It was busy. I'm glad that the year is over. In reflection, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are saying that right now, but honestly, we had a great year. I mean, the readjustment.
Dude, me too.
You know,
my year was incredible. Like, you know, most people didn't have a great year. My year was fucking phenomenal. So I really can't complain about 2020 other than not being able to go to places like normal.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things we found out early in the year, you know, and obviously it's kind of like a lot of what we were doing, well, what I've been doing for the last 28 years had prepared me a lot for 2020. What happened? Primarily one of the reasons why you're having me on the show is you know, getting into the online digital space and having to navigate those waters. And after navigating those waters for so long, seeing what I love to see, you know, I always love being the first when I do something, you know, or at least being a pioneer. But to see such a massive migration of people jumping online and having the medium that you've been using for so long be validated in, I mean, exponentially, almost impossibly, could you see this kind of growth happen to something like YouTube took a while, podcasting took a while. To see people jump on board, and now you utter the word live stream or podcast in a sentence and people really get it. People understand it.
It's definitely become legitimized for sure. And I can only imagine, yeah, like you said, kind of what you've been, you know, what you've been grinding at for well over a decade now is now the mainstream, and people like you've been ahead of the game for so long now, and people are just now trying to figure this out. So I can only imagine what that's like to be, you know, almost like vindicated.
I was going to use the term vindicated, but that sounds like I might have had a vengeance or something.
Yeah. Maybe vindication's not the right word, but it feels more legit.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a legit business that you're in a good market that everyone's trying to be a part of now.
Yeah. And that was the one thing is a year ago, if I was saying to somebody, oh yeah, I have a live streaming DJ show, we're a featured partner of Twitch, they'd be like, what's Twitch?
Yeah, they'd roll their eyes.
And then you'd say, oh, we stream DJs live online. And their immediate response would also follow up with, why would I want to watch a DJ online?
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, and if there's any, by the way, if there's any new listeners that are listening right now, if this is your first episode or you didn't listen to the last episode, definitely go listen to the last episode, because you're probably sitting here going, who's this Darran guy? Or if you're a completely new listener, you're like, who are both of these guys? Well, go check out the last episode. Darran, we go extensively into his background. It's a great introduction to who Darran is, why you should listen to him, and why the DJ Sessions is, I mean, changing the game in terms of live streaming. But going into all this, you know, Darran's learned a lot of lessons, and part of what this entire, you know, part 1 and part 2, we're going to be talking about copywriting this episode, because man, the world of copywriting is being flipped upside down. It's not even just live streaming either that's kind of taking a hit with the copywriting stuff. I'm very curious as to what you think of. I'm going to save it because it's going to be a really interesting topic once we kind of transition into that. And by the way, I do have to say for the listeners, my girlfriend Marty, who you guys have, long-term listeners, have heard of on an episode like 20 episodes ago, where we talked about financial stuff. She's not here today. So my animals are running rampant and they are being very active today. So I apologize if you hear for some reason. So we just got back from vacation for 2 weeks. I was gone visiting family. We had people here at our apartment watching our cats, and I have no idea why, but we come back and my cat Pumpkin has been going crazy, whining like never before, trying to go outside, and he never does. And I was like, did they let him out? Which I really don't care, but he's been going insane. So I apologize if you guys have to deal with him meowing in the background. I'm trying to corral him out of here and get him into the bedroom or something, but
that's all good.
Anyways, let's dive. I'm really curious to start this conversation off before we get into like the current state of what's happening with copyright, especially in the live streaming world, because man, was there some drama in like, I think what was like April or May, I think is when it really started to hit the fan.
Yeah. Well, March, April, June. I can give you a timeline. We can cover the timeline of
we'll cover the timeline, but to start it out, why don't we, I mean, kind of like what we did last episode where we kind of went into your background. I mean, what's your experience with copyright?
Yeah.
And not to get, we don't have to go into insane detail, but like just what was it like 10 years ago? And then, I mean, I guess leading into what's going on now.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. And it's awesome that you're getting me in this interview because I just came off an interview that I did with Gordon Firemark, who's an attorney out of LA. Better have just said his name right. I think I said his name right. I'm sure I said his name right. Yeah, Gordon Firemark. I mean, his resume, he does a podcast called The Podcast Lawyer. He actually teaches entertainment law at Columbia College, Hollywood.
Ooh, I might need to get this guy's information.
Oh yeah, hang on. It gets better. He's intellectual property and media law at the Fashion Institute in Design and Merchandising. He also teaches contract law at Pepperdine. So I just had him on as a guest right before this episode, and it was great I can do a lot of research online, but there's a lot of articles, a lot of stuff out there. When you know what you're looking for, it's going to read the same boilerplate, the same thing over and over again. But this guy was just refreshing to talk to because he knows the stuff. He's been in the game. He was in public access back in, 10 years probably before I was, because he started entertainment law in 92. That's when I started in public access. So we actually both started in public access television. And we talked about, the rules back then. The copyright law was made in 1976. So public access, that was mainly made for film and television. Those were the only mediums that copyright law really played a role in, because you were making something with using somebody else's work. You were copying the work. And so, public access came about and we were on television, it's on television. And they kind of did their things to make sure we were okay and protected under the use. But, they also know basically what summed up is the people weren't going to go start suing people in public access for using their work because they knew they didn't have any money.
Right.
I mean, we're going to go
probably that much of an audience either, really.
And not much. I mean, we're going to sue them for damages because, we had no way to even track numbers when we were doing shows on public access. You couldn't say, we have 1,000. It wasn't broadcast television where when I moved into that world after public access to NBC and Fox, where we had Nielsen ratings. You could find out what our demographics were. We could find out how many viewers were watching. We could see our numbers grow. They could actually go back and pull those Nielsen and said, we know 25,000 people were watching this show. So we're going to sue you for those damages if you don't have the rights to the music. So, I had to quickly in 2000 educate myself from being an overglorified production assistant on a public access television show to associate producer of a broadcast network show. And all that kept popping up with these terms, synchronization use, master use, contracts. Actually, contracts I still use to this day. They kind of don't change. The parameters of them don't change. But I was new to this, and I'm like, you mean I have to get, so if a band wants to play on our show, I have to get a contract to use their song. I have to get a synchronization because I'm syncing the song to a video. And then I have to get performance rights. And then I have to get personal release of the band. Basically, I was putting 4 to 5 contracts in front of these bands, these just a local band, to put them on a show. These bands didn't have attorneys. They didn't know what was going on. So to throw them these contracts, they're sitting there going, what the hell is all this? I'm like, this is so we can protect ourselves so you can't come back and sue us. I need the right, basically it's basically saying we got the rights to use your music. And a lot of bands were like, we don't know what's going on, because they were independent. They didn't have a label that they were working with that understood this, you know? And so navigating that was interesting, but needed. And this still all moved forward going into the podcasting world, you know, where now you were using somebody else's music. They have copyrights, and we'd have to have the rights to use that music and distribute it, whether you're making a penny on it or not. Okay. Now there is what comes into play called fair use. And fair use, our content of our shows, we're using the music to create content for people to come watch it. Fair use falls into play where I use this example in the interview I was just in. If you and I are walking down the Vegas Strip and a Prince song comes on in the background, and you happen to say you tripped and fell and it was a funny video, and we put it online and it gets 1 million downloads and views on YouTube, YouTube may come in and they might say, hey, we're going to flag that because you're using a Prince song in your video. They don't know what the video is. They don't care about the content. They care about the song. We can come back and we can challenge that and say, hey, whoa, this is fair use, man. This is background music coming from a hotel. That wasn't the primary content of our video. Even though they were saying, let's go crazy may have been playing in the background and we're falling on the ground, drunk, rolling around, laughing. That wasn't the primary. And so they might lift that and say, you're right. That was background, fair use. We can't, your original, because it's a one-time off thing. But if I'm a person that goes around filming funny videos over and over again of people falling down and I have music playing in the background, well, then my primary content is distributing that, using music in the background as part of that content. So it might not fall under fair use. Woo, that's just the snowflake to the tip of the iceberg. When it really comes down to it, that's just fair use. So, you know, what I've found is when we moved up from podcasting, which, you know, that's not, we'll disseminate through, you know, Apple, Stitcher, iHeart, all those places, but none of those places host our content. We're hosting our content on our own servers. And so it's up to, they don't need Apple and all those people. They don't have to worry about copyright stuff because they're not the ones hosting the content. They are a medium that is accessing an XML document, that a link for people, the layman terms who don't understand podcasting or this stuff. They're hosting a link, and that link points back to a server, and that's where the content's being hosted. So again, the responsibility of the licenses falls upon us. When you use something like YouTube or Twitch, a video hosting provider, they are hosting the content. So you have to have the licenses to put it on their servers to host that content there. And if you don't have it, they will take it down. Facebook. And now that was, you know, video on demand. When YouTube came out, there's a huge thing, the issues that YouTube had to face. And now you have companies, the live streaming companies coming out, you know, Facebook going into live, Mixer just went down and sold off to Facebook, Twitch coming into play. You know, you have these people putting not only just music up, but video games, the music in video games, karaoke songs. They're performing songs they don't have the rights to perform and or the licenses of the music they're using to use that said music. And the problem is that companies like YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, they're monetizing off of that content. So you as the content creator puts this music up, you may not be seeing a dime for it, but they're selling commercials. They're making money and they don't have the rights. And the DMCA comes in and kind of puts a safe harbor act and says, hey, you as a company are protected because we know you can't monitor everything that's going to be thrown to your servers. But if you make a process that somebody says, take that down and you comply with it, you're okay. You're protected. And that's been working so far. That was created in 1996. And there was no YouTube. There was no digital, there was no live, there wasn't even an iPod created. We were still I was working for record stores at that time. We was selling CDs and tape. I think we were still selling cassette tapes at that time. I mean, I think maybe you might have been able to do a live stream of a set somewhere close to 90. I'm not sure exactly when it started here, but you could do online live digital streaming to a computer if you had cable modem. You couldn't do it on 56K dial up. But that being said, video online really didn't become prevalent until later.
Like
And then you obviously had to have the bandwidth.
2004.
Well, YouTube was 2005. And so all that being said, copyright for television, it was kind of, if I knew I was doing a show, like a film, or I knew I was doing a TV show, and I knew when it was going to air, how long it was going to air for, what the audience was, getting the licenses for that was pretty easy. You take a standard film, a TV show that's 30 minutes long, how many songs can you really put in it? And if you were doing a TV show, you probably, if you were going to use copywritten music, you could get 1 or 2 songs cleared pretty easy. That show's going to air one time for the season. You're not putting it to DVD. You're not mass producing this. You're not leaving it online forever. It's not going to be in reruns or anything. It goes on once, it's done, it's gone. Film, okay, you're going to have your distro deal in place. Okay, I'm going to put this through this publishing house. It's either going to go it's going to be a motion major picture and be distributed across America and globally, okay. But the independent filmmaker, they're probably going to show it a couple of screenings, put it in some film festivals, maybe play the circuit. And distribution there is going to be very limited because you're only putting it in a theater to maybe a few hundred people. So, and you put all this down when you submit when you try to get the rights and clearances to these songs. So they knew it wasn't a cut and dry process, but still pretty easy. Because for a film, a 90-minute film, if you have an original score in it, which you probably usually will, and you're using a couple songs that you maybe don't have the licenses to, you're only researching 4 to 5 songs. And I'm still trying to find these ladies. They're out of LA. They actually do this as a service for you. It's like $125. You submit in the songs you want. They will go out and they will find all the rights holders and send that information to you. For $185, they'll actually submit all the information to the right places and then come back to you saying, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. I'm still trying to find them online. I've seen it before. I wish I could find them, but $185, but then you still have the negotiation of you got to pay for all those licenses. And, I use the example that, one of my favorite movies, Boondock Saints. Troy Duffy wanted to use the part where Willem Dafoe gets out of the first time you see Willem Dafoe get out of the car and he's going up to the guy who's in the alleyway, and they use that da 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 da. And in the director's cut, when you're listening to Troy Duffy, he wanted to use "When the Levee Breaks" by Led Zeppelin, but they couldn't secure the rights to it because they wanted too much money for it. And it was an independently produced film. They're like, no, we're not going to give you the rights to it. So he had to go with something else.
Which is now like a cult classic.
Cult classic, exactly. and that's that's the exact thing. You might be able to, all of a sudden, you do sign off. Say you're Led Zeppelin, you say, okay, we're going to charge you $50,000 for this movie. We know it's probably not going to go anywhere. But all of a sudden, it becomes this cult classic and it's worldwide known as boom, 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 boom. And they're like, crap, we could have got $2-3 million out of that, or we underbid that. But that's what you got to worry about. And that's when it comes to this online stuff is, if somebody gets the licensing for a video and it says, oh, you're able to use this for 5,000 downloads, or you're able to use this for a year. Well, once I hit 5,000 downloads or that year is up, I have to pull that episode down. Now, and what happens if that episode goes viral in the first 3 months and gets boom? I got to still take it down and it's gone.
Yeah. And this kind of, this plays into something that I talked about in the very first episode of Electronic Dance Money with Danny Troya from Cinco Sound. He came on. He used to do, I don't think he's doing a ton of production anymore. Actually, no, I think he is starting to do more production stuff, but he pretty much primarily does production with hip hop artists. And he was making at one point $2,000 a month just selling beats. And he uses BeatStars for a lot of his licensing. And a lot of these, rappers out here are buying leases for beats, but they're all tied to these at max 10,000 streams or something, or I don't know the logistics of it, and they're all priced at that. So it's like $60 and you can get 10,000 streams on this. If it goes over that, then we get into some copyright issues. And so a lot of these rappers will cheap out and go, oh, I'll do $60 instead of buying an outright license for $400. And that's where you're like, oh, well, if you're the shit and you think you're the shit and you think you're going to get 1 million streams one day, well, then you better buy that $400 license, because that's going to pay off more than the $60 license when you get fucked and the producer comes around and goes, oh, hey, by the way, that's now my song and I own the rights to that. So I'm going to be, you know, we're not renegotiating a contract. I'm just going to take all the money for all the streams for this.
Yeah. And I have a good friend of mine, Robert Anderson, who's written some books upon this very same subject. He does hip hop beats and makes beats and sells them and all that. He's very well listed on Spotify. And I love waking up to his rhetoric every morning. And, you know, there's at least 3 to 4 posts a day. And it sounds like he's talking shit to people, but what he's really saying is, wake the fuck up, people, and get on the bandwagon. If you come at me and you think you're this and you're that, but you don't want to pay $40 for a beat, or you don't want to pay $100, you're not in the right game. And, you know, if you're really not looking at the copyright side of things, if you hold your breath to wait for this to settle out and you think something's going to be made, not only are you not going to die, you're not going to be able to procreate. And so that's fine. I'm not trying to be harsh or rude to anyone, but the truth is yeah, copyright law is being looked at. Like I said, just got the interview with an attorney about all this, but it will be slow change. And there is no way to really make a blanket statement to get everyone to agree this is what it's going to be. Would be almost impossible. So it's kind of really up in the air. The music industry is really kind of up in the air, especially when it comes to this digital music rights management stuff.
It's very weird. It's kind of like a gray area. You know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of when weed was legalized in like Washington and Oregon, and there were these extremely fucking gray areas where no one kind of knew what they could or couldn't do. I mean, all the dispensaries could only deal in cash. They couldn't store any money in banks because it was federally illegal, but in the state it was legalized. So technically it's legal money. So then you have these, you know, these dispensaries walking around with tens of thousands of dollars, and they're hiring like, more than that. And they're hiring these mercenaries to like transfer money through the city. Like it's, and there was so much weird gray area. Now I think things have settled down. I don't remember. No, they still haven't settled down. Damn,
not as much. I'm gonna pause you right there. I was very into cannabis business in 13. Actually, a little bit before that when it was medical. But once 13 hit, I have an advertising agency called iAlternative Media, and I was all about the legalities of what that gray area you mentioned about.
Well, talking about advertising for weed, for cannabis,
advertising for weed businesses, and what they put in the law was completely, what they put in I-502 was completely unconstitutional, and not only unconstitutional at the federal level, it was unconstitutional at the state level. Mm-hmm. But because it was still federally illegal to sell weed, it didn't cover constitutional right. I can go off on that, Ty. I can go constitutional. Fuck, you want to go off First Amendment and constitutional legalities of weed? And anyways, yeah, I was on a whole forefront of that with another company. Mine has nothing to do with copyright, but yeah, I kind of surround myself with that stuff. But you're right, this gray area and this, well, it's not necessarily what I would call a gray area. It's all there for copyright. It is there in black and white. It's understanding it. And when you look at law, when you look at something that's in black and white, what 90% of people want to do immediately is get pissed off, which means they put emotion into logic, into law. And it's like, wait a second here, remove the emotion, read it for what it is, understand and go, okay, so what do I need to do this? I can't do that. Oh, well, I mean, you don't get pissed off that Mount Everest exists and it's an almost impossible climb just because you say you want to go do it and then you find out it's impossible to do it. You're like, oh, well, why did that mountain have to be created? That's not fair. I wanted to do it in there. You're like, shit, I didn't really realize it was going to take that much to climb Mount Everest, and I'm not ready for that. And I know my limitations, and I also probably don't want to die. And maybe that's not my career path with this. Music copyright is kind of like that when you want to do it the right way. You know, when you really look at it, and most people, what their emotions get into is, Well, I'm playing the music for free. The music should be free. We should all get it because music is the world, and let's give it away for free. They don't understand. People pay to make that music. People pay to publish that music. People are putting that music out there as a commodity. Like again, I'll reference back to Gordon. I was just talking to you. He says one of our biggest exports in America is entertainment.
Oh, it's huge. Massive.
The entertainment and video game industry alone is a huge export of our economy.
No offense to anyone living outside of the US, but like TV shows and movies and even radio in other countries is nothing like what it is in the States. I mean, the States are putting out the highest tier of production. I mean, we're across the board, movies, TV shows, radio shows, all across the board. They're putting, and I say radio shows. I mean, there are great like DJ radio shows overseas as well. But what I mean by that is like Sirius XM radio shows, like Howard Stern for decades has been a legend in radio. I actually don't like him anymore. I think he's sold out big time. But regardless, you look at I think it's in Canada that they have it written in their law that they have to like all media basically has to put out a very specific percentage of original Canadian material in order for like networks to be running and radio shows and whatnot. And so they almost never they don't play a lot of American stuff, which is really interesting. And it's real funny. But yes, you're right. Like the entertainment industry here in the US is such a significant part of our culture and our economy. And it does make sense that they'd go to, a lot of musicians in general would go to the extent to make sure they're getting taken care of. That being said, let's kind of transition to what happened with Twitch over, I guess, the last 6-7 months, because Twitch their copyright for music is just, do you think that the reason for the copyright situation with Twitch, and we'll get into that in just a second, do you think that stems from all of the musicians jumping onto Twitch and realizing that all their music is being played here?
No, I'll tell you what happened, where the real shift happened. Okay, this is 28 years in the making. The moment you gave every individual on the planet the ability to record video in their pocket and upload it from anywhere in the world, that opened up the can of worms. Before, I had to go to a store and buy a video camera. I had to go film that footage. I had to edit that footage. And there was only one place, a few select places I might be able to put that video footage. Either it was public access or if I bought network time. Okay. And yeah, everyone might have had video cameras, but how many were aspiring to make a TV show and put it on broadcast TV, or even public access had limited access because there were only so many time slots in a day. You didn't have the internet and servers in the background there. So there was still a limited amount of space to put this content up. Even if there were, say in the Seattle area, 50,000 people with video cameras, there's still only a limited number of spots per day you can put shows on the air. Once you put a video camera in everyone's pocket and it became call it the selfie, or call it the me, or call it the narcissistic video market that we're in, everyone picks up their camera and starts going, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I can distribute because I now have unlimited distribution. I have forever distribution. I put a video up on YouTube and it's been there for 15 years. It doesn't go away. And I can share that link over and over and over and over again. And I can rehash my old content. I can stop filming right now. And with 1,900 shows on the air, I can air one episode a day. What would that be? 5, 6, almost 7 years, one episode a day. I wouldn't have to repeat an episode. You couldn't do that back then. So, but that leading into this, the world of podcasting, the world of YouTubing, which then obviously got into the world of live streaming, and then the outside world coming to a halt, and everyone, all the content producers, they were still there. But now everyone else is from home and they're like, wait, I'm doing a Zoom call. Wait, I always had this idea about doing a show and I'm already talking to my camera for work. Why don't I just start talking to my camera about my cats or my dog or knitting, or I'm pissed off at this for politics or whatever. I want to do a show now. And we've seen a doubling in growth. The podcast world alone has seen a doubling. I don't know where it's at exactly today, but I know the statistic was 1 million podcasts in 19 to over 2 million podcasts in 2020.
Yeah, I know my listenership through 2020 like tripled or quadrupled.
Absolutely.
I mean, it skyrocketed.
Yeah, and that was not only from a content creation standpoint have we seen the skyrocketing, but a content consumption have we seen that also, because people are not distracted by so much stuff. We're at home, we're looking for new content. Yeah, we can binge watch Cobra Kai all we want. Boom, it's done. Give me more, give me more, give me more. I want more, I want more. And they're looking to avenues, and we all go on social media and say, look at us, look at us, look at us. Here's what we got. And if you like that subject topic, you're going to jump into it. But what wasn't addressed is that people didn't know is they just jumped on board. They jumped out and want to say, I'm going to go climb Mount Everest to analogize this. I'm going to go climb Mount Everest, but I'm not going to get any ropes. I'm not getting any oxygen. I'm not getting any warm clothes, food, training, anything. I'm just going to go out there and do it. And then they get right to the base of the mountain and you go to put one step on it and they go, and whoever let's say somebody's running Mount Everest, they say, you can't do this without the proper gear. And they start screaming bloody murder. Why can't I do this? I paid for the song. I own it on iTunes. They're like, no, you can't do this. This is the rules to climb our mountain. Abide by the rules and we'll have no problem here. So you have all these people sitting at the base of Mount Everest going, I want to climb. I want to be free. Let us be free. And they can't do it. And so, you jump on and you see, a company like Twitch that comes on. And so you saw this mass migration. I will say Facebook is the Mount Everest of sorts. And you see this, they say, well, we're going to go climb Kilimanjaro. We'll go next door because they're accepting us. They're bringing it over. And so, you see this timeline being built in 2020 with everyone this mass migration to people on Twitch. Music, I'm going to strictly rely on content creators that are focusing on music. And I'm not going to focus on the independent music creator. I'm going to talk about people that are using music that they don't own. When I say, that they don't own the rights to publish in that way. You can own a song for home use, 99 cents, buy it on iTunes. Yay. That does not give you performance rights. That does not give you synchronization, master use rights. It does not give you those rights to use that song in any way other than personal home use. If you grew up in the 80s and when you put a VHS tape in and that first thing that says FBI warning says this is only used for personal home use. If you get caught, you can be imprisoned for up to 20 years, I think it is, and a $250,000 fine for each instance. That played in every tape before you put it in. And I came from that era. You had CDs. You couldn't burn CDs for the longest time. So you could start burning CDs. So you were locked. They felt CDs were going to protect the industry. And then Apple with digital music rights management, when you got a file, you can only copy it to 5 other computers. But we saw that blow out of you can download digital music all you want now. The point I'm trying to get at is that Twitch came in and said, okay, we now see a problem with this because it isn't just people playing video games on our platform. People are playing video games, but they got music playing in the background.
A lot of streamers, almost every big streamers was playing, if they're doing like a just chatting thing where they're hanging out with their, with their viewers, they were usually playing some sort of mix in the background, and they've gotten smart. Now they're going onto YouTube and playing like royalty free, 2-hour long lo-fi mixes or whatever. But yeah, I mean, almost across the board, they had music, and it was so many videos had to get removed, like of an insane. I mean, you experienced it, right? You had to remove a crazy amount of videos from Twitch.
Yeah. What happened is Twitch came in June of this. I said June of this year, June of last year, and June of 2020, if we want to date the episode, and said, "Hey, our algorithms they monitor while you're live streaming, but we won't take it down. That's what's called ephemeral. I always say it wrong, but I say ephemeral. It's ephemeral use, which means you can use it as long as it's as long as this is what the attorney just said. Now, I'm not a legal advisor or legal anything. Don't take this as legal advice, but
where's that interview real quick? Where's that interview going to be posted so people can go check
the DJsessions.com. We'll be putting that up here shortly.
Okay, sweet. I'll include that link in the show notes as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. About an hour long, just lots of great stuff, but he covers this. And the basis of it is if you do not hit a record button, you're covered. You can stream live all day long because it is a one-time limited use.
Okay.
There you go. Doesn't matter what the content
can't be posted.
is.
It can't be posted.
Once you hit a record button, you're copying that.
Now, the issue there is Twitch records every single live stream. So
actually, no, you can turn that feature off.
Okay.
Yeah. So you turn that feature. I had to go do that because you segue into what you just said, removing episodes. So what happened is people were recording on Twitch and that footage was living on Twitch. And even though Twitch would pull it down after 14 days, if you were not a affiliate or partnered channel, Twitch was still copying that music and putting it up there and letting it sit there. For those 14 days, they were in violation of copyright law. And if they wanted to find them and sue them and say, we're going to come in for $100,000 a day, you left it up there for 14 days for one song, that's $1.4 million. Or, boom. And Twitch is like, shit. So they had to go back and not only, they do their video on demand. So their VODs were clear. So if you stream something, their algorithm would read it, go to VOD, video on demand, and you would see what I call handlebars or red handlebars, 6 minutes around each song. You'd get a notice saying these songs you can't use these and blah, blah, blah. Well, what Twitch wasn't doing is they were not doing this for any of their clips. And if you're not familiar with what clips are short little segments. So you're a video gamer, you're playing a game for 2 hours. You don't want to go highlight and say, watch my video for 2 hours and watch when I did this really cool thing. You'd make a clip of that 2-minute segment where you beat that boss or did that really cool move. You put that clip up there. Well, that clip had the copywritten music in it. And their algorithms were not covering those clips. So they came back to all the gamers and went all the way back to 2010 and said, hey, you got to remove those clips because our algorithm is going to go in. And if you don't, your account is going to be flagged. And you got 3 strikes on Twitch.
Dude, streamers fucking lost it.
Yeah,
I remember I saw videos on TikTok of them just losing their shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't understand why. And a lot of the majority of streamers, people who don't understand how copyright works, their first inclination is, well, why don't you guys pay for it? You're owned by Amazon. You guys have the money. You could do it. And it's like, no, that's not on our responsibility. If you understand how the DMCA works and how this works, we're protected as long as we make methods for people that make claims to remove it for them. But we aren't responsible for taking care of the licenses that you're supposed to have. And so a lot of these streamers were pissed because they had to remove it. And I knew this was coming back in January, late January 2020, when I was talking about my music show to Twitch. And they're like, we can feature you on the front page of our site, but you're going to have the licenses. I said, done. No problem. I can get those. They said, well, that's not really the problem. And I was like, okay, what is the problem? They said, well, what about the other 450 videos that you have on our site that are all red flagged with, anywhere from 1 to some shows would make it through and not be red flagged. Some shows would come through and have 9 red flags on them. You're only allowed 3 strikes, not 3 episodes, 3 strikes. So 3 songs in one video could be 1, 2, 3. They could terminate your channel without warning, without cause. And they could literally say, we did this because you had strikes on your account. Doesn't even have to be multiples. It could be just, you know what? You're done. You're done. So, a lot of the gamers got pissed off. Now, this didn't affect the music industry because a lot of people don't go back to a DJ set or a musician playing a song, and make a clip of that song. I mean, a musician might make a 3-minute clip of their one song if they were doing a 1-hour live performance and break it down into clips. But a DJ, they don't make a 2-minute clip saying, check out my mix. Check out where I beat matched this song. They don't do that. So it went right over their head. It just completely doesn't concern me type of thing. I don't make clips. And I don't let my videos live in video demand. I'm streaming live. And it's like, okay, cool. So come into about And that was June-ish of 2020. Come in a few months later, and Twitch issues. So that first, the clips was kind of what I call the first great wailing. Oh, what do we do now? Well, actually, I'm sorry. The first great wailing was Facebook shutting down all the DJs. Going, oh, what do we do? Where do we migrate? And they all migrated over to Twitch. The second great wailing was when they took clips away or started monitoring clips. And that was like, oh, and the video gamers are like, oh, what do we do? And it didn't really affect the music industry. Great Wailing 2.5 was when Twitch issued an email to everyone a few months ago that said, here's our take on copyright. Boom, big long page. I mean, read it all. But in a nutshell said, don't use music you don't own. And we're going to start monitoring this. And you got about, what was it, November 11th? Or it was like they gave 2 weeks. We're going to start doing this. And I was like, oh, here it comes. It's coming. And I had already removed all my videos online. So we just use Twitch as a live streaming platform, featured partner, love them. But so that came down the line and people were like, oh, how does that affect me? Okay, cool. Well, what they don't know is what I call the Great Wailing 3.0. And that will be coming down the line. And Twitch has already gone out and is working with a company over in France to take their existing algorithm system that they have to actually start monitoring their live streams. Essentially, they're going to start doing what Facebook has already been doing for a while now, which is taking down the licensing companies are going to say, hey, there's a DMCA violation here. We know you don't have the rights to this. Boom, we're taking you down. And people are not going to be happy about that. That's going to be the third great wailing and saying, whoa, I already, well, we hear all the same old ancient arguments, or I guess new ancient arguments of people, complaining, and it simply comes back to don't play music you don't own the rights to.
As I'm thinking about this, I'm starting to think if you're a fucking great producer, who can make a lot of tracks very, very fast, there's a massive market right now. If you can make enough tracks that are 4-hour mixes, let's say you're only making like 2 to 3 minute long tracks. You grind your fucking ass off enough to make a 4-hour mix. You could create a business where you sell these mixes for $10 a pop to these streamers. This is not being done right now. So this is bringing up a really interesting market that is going to be needed in the near future. That's going to be a completely new market for producers. So, Shay, if you're a producer listening to this and you're interested in, the licensing world, that's a major opportunity. Not only that, but that's going to become, I'm predicting that's going to become the new internet sensation, is the original artists, the artists that create their own original content to can give to other
people, and or self-distribute, because they're not only going to be able to have a Twitch channel where they can have, say, 20,000 people watching them with 4,000 subscribers, with people giving them bits and emojis, and they're able to claim all the money off that. They can also do a Patreon account. They can do a PayPal. They can do other things to receive money. And if they were able to make, say, $7,500 a week doing their stuff, they're making $360,000 a year. Yeah, and they own everything they do.
Well, that's the other thing. If you can create a business model around selling like these types of mixes that are all your original content, there's a lot of streamers out there. And there's probably millions of streamers out there. You sell to 10%, not even. You sell to 1% of those people at $10 a pop, and I think that's going to be like 100 G's. So
the problem is that these people, I'm going to apologize. The problem is going to be, though, and I just thought about this, that person can go do that independently all they want, but guess what they also got to be? They got to be their own accountant. They got to be their own marketing. They got to be their own attorney. They got to go take down and do all their own takedowns of music, and people exploit their own music. Artists that have had their music ripped off had fake accounts created on Spotify, and their music's put up there, and people are making money off of their music, and they got to tell Spotify, hey, somebody's doing this. They're taking my music, and they got to act as their own attorney doing it. So that's the other pitfalls that you get into when you're not working with a label or you're not working with a publishing company, that they handle all that shit for you. So again, that transparency of people not understanding the process of why you would call it sell out to a label is because they're handling all that shit. That's why you're getting this much of the music and they own the rights to it, and it can do all that for you.
Well, and I wonder if you're going to start seeing companies like Beatport and iTunes and other distribution companies. I guess they're not really, they're, they're selling the music. I guess they're technically distributing it, but I wonder if you're going to start seeing them offering new programs of licensing. So like when you go buy a track, you can also purchase a license for $1. And so these Twitch streamers can now go in and basically create an entire playlist of tracks that they purchase with the licenses, and they can have, let's say, over a year they bought 400 tracks and they just have this playlist on a randomized loop playing in the background for them. I'm curious if you're going to also, that's an opportunity for these bigger companies to, rake in the cash cow even more.
The problem with that is, and this is exactly one of the questions I was talking with the attorney about, is the licensing. The problem is okay, so you say you're doing 500 downloads a week. Great. Or let's say you put a cap on it. This song, you buy it with that extra $1, that gives you 500 downloads a week. What happens if all of a sudden that podcast gets out there and I put it on the forum and it gets 75,000 downloads or 10 million downloads? Or, I have this interview with an A-list celebrity and I cleared that track to play because my audience right now is, say, 90,000 downloads a week. But that's an aggregate of all my podcast downloads, not just that specific download. I don't know how many downloads that's going to get. I can give an average or an estimate.
I see them being able to sell different kinds of licenses though as well. And it would probably come down to what the record labels want to do. Hey, do we want to add in an exclusive license with this? And maybe they talk to the artist and they say, hey, we're going to sell an exclusive license for this for people to use in this. That's going to, let's say, they'll decrease your pay by this much. You'll get a bigger audience and we'll take a bigger cut of, we'll basically take the license cut or whatever. I don't know what the hell the logistics of that would look like. I think there's a lot of opportunity. This might be a blessing in disguise for a lot of artists where, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for different markets opening up, I guess you could say, different avenues that artists can take to take advantage of it.
Yeah, you're right. I believe that is going to open up. And an artist I was talking to about a month ago goes by Black Liquid. He started House Sound of LA. Met him actually about 11 years ago at Miami Winter Music Conference, and it was a pleasure to interview him again 10, 11 years later. We're sitting there talking. He knows, he's watching how all this goes. He works for an internet company, the distribution company. He gets it. He understands the legality of all this. He goes, you know what? I'm just sitting back. I got archives of 10 years of music that I own all the rights to, everything to. I have enough to play DJ sets of my own music, of multiple genres of music over and over again, to let me do a show. I think he has I would say was it 1,700, maybe even more songs. So in an hour-long set, you can only play 12 songs. I could play my own library over and over again, and I own the rights to it.
Yeah, this is one of the
to movies and everything.
This is one of the reasons why artists should strive to be able to create a DJ set with their own original music. This is exactly, one of the reasons. Okay, so I've got a question, and I don't know if you're gonna have all the answers to it, and we might be able to just kind of spitball back and forth, but just a few months ago, it might have been a little bit longer. It might have been when all this Twitch stuff was going around. Artists were having a fit with TikTok because all their sounds, the minute-long clips of their music are being used on TikTok, and they're not getting any royalties for it. And a lot of these artists, though, and record labels are opting into putting the music on TikTok for people to use. Now, some artists are getting fed up. They want to get paid for these royalties. Here's where I don't agree with that. I don't think that artists should want to get paid for the royalties of their music being played on TikTok, because that's going to very, very, very significantly decrease the amount of people that are actually going to be using your music, and decrease the chance of you actually blowing up as an artist. There have been a fucking crazy amount of artists that blew up because of TikTok and their song went viral. Now, they didn't get left out of the cash cow. I mean, they started playing crazy shows, filling up shows, getting millions of streams on Spotify, people purchasing their music, purchasing their merch, all that stuff. Once if you start forcing these creators on TikTok to start paying royalties, paying for licenses to use audio, they're just not going to use them. The artists are not going to blow up. I really don't want to say it. I hate to use the word you're getting free exposure, but the truth is it's different with TikTok. TikTok is a completely different beast where you're getting millions of people hearing sometimes it's not even a minute long clip of your track. It's 20 seconds. And if you have a really good track that blows up on TikTok, then you've written a track in a specific way where you're going to want the listener to listen to the track over and over and over again. And those are the tracks that blow up. Now, if you play a 20-second clip on TikTok of the best part of the track, that's going to make people go, fuck, I need to listen to this more. And they're going to go stream it on Spotify 100 times over the next week. That, I think, is way more profitable to you than forcing creators on TikTok to pay for a license or a royalty to use audio. I'm curious what you think of that. I think the music industry and record labels should stay the fuck away from that and just see it as free goddamn advertisement. It's free real estate for them.
The question is, here's what it really comes down to. Who owns TikTok and where do they reside?
Mm-hmm.
And how much money are they making by selling advertising, by publishing that, then letting that content exist on their platform? If TikTok was a free universal service like public access television was, if you made, lo and behold, there may have been some people that made money selling advertising on public access, but your viewership was shit.
Yeah.
You didn't have enough. You were never going to get some deal. You might have been able to take a public access show and move it to network platform, but that's a completely another step at a level. But public access was meant to be what it is: access to the public to distribute information, because the networks had control over all of it. If TikTok were truly a 100% free platform like that, user generated, like you had to pay a fee as a user to sign up, and it was user supported by donations, some nonprofit organization, like that. Even those people, you could still make them $2 million a year running the nonprofit. And so is somebody profiting of it? No, the company isn't profiting necessarily. Their holdings might have $20 billion in holdings, but they're still a nonprofit. Okay. But TikTok is not. It's a commercial venture. And they're making bank off of those people making those videos. Again, the me generation with a phone in their pocket,
yep,
who could give shit fuck less about paying anyone, because they just want to make their quick video to look cool. So everyone says, look at me, look how funny I am. And I have nothing against TikTok, nothing against users that are doing stuff. Please don't murder me online. I love all content creators of all shapes, sizes, and sources and all that fun stuff. But that's what it really comes down to. And the industry knows that TikTok, if you remove the music from TikTok, the content creation would still be there.
I think TikTok would be fucking done if they removed music.
Why? I mean, I guess if you're making, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not an avid TikTok
No,
user,
you're fine. You're fine. It's such a major part of the platform. I mean, you flip through audio on there, and I would say it's probably like 70 to 80% of videos are music related, dances, all that sort of. And it's one of the reasons I tell my listeners, I'm like, if you're promoting music, you better be putting it on TikTok, and you better be finding people making dance videos with your tracks, because that's what's going to fucking blow up.
I could see that 100% from the independent producer standpoint, but you're right. People are doing this because they are completely oblivious and completely don't understand what they're doing when they're using the song.
Yeah. I will agree.
They are, put it this way. There's a movie called Terms and Conditions. Okay. Nobody reads the terms and conditions. I used to work in an industry, and I won't say what industry it was, but I can guarantee you for shit, when they offered the 7 days free trial membership, okay, those people wanted to get into that website, use what was on that website immediately. They did not care about going and reading the terms and conditions, and that you would be charged for your monthly membership if you didn't cancel the 7-day membership within 4 days of the 7-day membership ending. I won't mention what industry does that, but there's a lot of industries that actually does that. But I worked in an industry that did that. And they were legally allowed to do that, legally allowed to charge for the fees. And we happily refunded the money back to them, to the customer, once they were able to find us and contact us, because those services were rendered. That money sat in a bank account. It was interest-bearing money given back. Now you're doing millions and millions of dollars on that a month. That compound interest starts to grow. Give them back their fee. Who cares?
Who cares? We made money in the bank. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
we made money off of that 7 days.
So we made money off that 7 day, or made money off that 1 month fee.
Yeah.
Which could be $30 to $30 to $50 a month, and you have 1 million to 2 million people doing this. You're talking $30 to $60 million a month is sitting in a bank account. Who cares if there's a 10%, 30%, 40% retention rate? Even if it's just for 1 month, that money just sits in there for 1 month. What's the compound interest? I'm not going to calculate it, but it's money. End over end, never ending money coming in. So that being said, TikTok is the ones profiting on it. Yeah, the end user isn't getting any money in their pocket for putting up that TikTok video, but damn well TikTok's profiting and making bank off that shit. And yes, and that is people making mini commercials. And then what TikTok will do is say, look what the industry's doing to us. Look at the bad guys. We want you to all make your fun videos. Get them off our backs. Which really isn't the case, because it doesn't work like that. And the industry will fight back going, no, TikTok, you're using our shit to make money. Pay us our fucking money. Fuck you, pay me. Fuck you, pay me. That's what they're going to, And so it's going to be interesting.
TikTok is like, I have no fucking idea what to even do with that. And I'm curious as to how much the entertainment industry had a hand in the trying to get TikTok banned.
Well, watch this. I'm going to pause you. Here's the thing. Where is TikTok out of?
China.
From what last I heard was China. Does China recognize DMCA?
No, not at all. They don't give a shit.
There you go. Right there. So guess what? They don't have to abide by DMCA. They didn't sign on DMCA. So all those claims that would even come towards TikTok.
Well, here's the issue. But then you have places like you have Reels on Instagram, which is TikTok for Instagram, and they're still using all music.
But who's Instagram owned by, and where do they reside?
They're in the U.S.
And where do they reside? So is the U.S. signed on with DMCA? Better fucking know damn well shit show they are.
Well, but you're not seeing like the copyright strikes happening yet on Reels. I mean, you're not, and that's what I'm talking about. I don't know where that's gonna go with the licensing, copyright stuff with these platforms like TikTok and Reels, and especially. I mean, Reels is in the U.S. That's what. So if you have,
go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you have a song blow up and a record label comes at them, maybe it's in the terms and conditions when you upload an audio to, the sound to it. I have no idea.
Well, what my research uncovered last year is that Facebook actually gave about $500 million, $500 million to the RIAA and said, we're going into video, stay off our fucking backs. That's what I read it somewhere. I can't quote the article, but that's what is said to say, hey, we're going into this. Stay off our backs, please. We know this is going to come. Don't come us with pitchforks and fire and boiling oil and all that shit. So there may be some negotiations that are happening. They're saying, hey, we know Facebook is a content provider. They're going into this world. We know people are going to upload content. We know they're working to take care of this. Here's some money to help your organization. I wouldn't call it a bribe, but
it might be a little bit.
Hey, somebody goes and gives me $500,000, $500 million to kind of like, okay, leave them alone, but they know. And I mean, Facebook can afford it.
Yeah.
And they got the legal teams for it. So again, Facebook has to follow those DMCA guidelines, and they have that. If they may not have kicked on the algorithm yet, because they might know that, hey, we can run this thing on Instagram take Mixcloud, for example. It's in beta. We know we can run this for a year before it really gets to the legal process. So let's let this just go balls out free wild for a year and let everyone upload whatever they want. And then we'll start going backwards.
It's like SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
we'll let everyone do whatever they want, wild, wild west, and then we'll start coming back and saying, wait a second.
So it's, in my opinion, terrible fucking business practice. I mean, one of the worst, because you attract all these people to this platform having these expectations, and then you have companies like SoundCloud who turn around, year 4 or 5 into them blowing up, and they just copyright strike everything. I mean, Cascade had almost all of his music removed from SoundCloud off his own personal account for copyright strikes with Warner Bros. And he's like, I fucking wrote this. What are you doing? This is insane. So
yeah, I mean, Cascade, that's a classic example of somebody not having all the rights to their own music.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
and not having everything cleared. And so, like, I think you were mentioning before is, an artist would go out. Actually, I was talking about this with the attorney, with Gordon, right before this. He said artists were going out and doing their own live streaming, doing their own podcast, and labels came back and the industry came back and said, you need to put a stop to that, because we've marketed you this way and you're going out there and doing your own independent thing. You can't do that, or we'll drop you, because you could say the wrong thing, do the wrong. We don't have PR and clearance for all of that to start managing all these artists doing your own separate thing. And some major, he didn't say what names, but what major artists had to say, oop, I'm done. This is gone. I got to remove it from online because I wasn't cleared to do this under my contract. They weren't licensed. They didn't have the rights to go do their own live streaming show. They didn't have the rights to do their own podcast. They are owned. They're owned. I mean, unless you're Michael Jackson, who's passed away, George Michael, is he still alive? Or Madonna? I think George Michael's still alive. But those were the big powerhouses back then when it came to copyright against Sony. George Michael, Michael Jackson, Madonna. They were coming out saying, we want the rights to our music. We want this. We made this shit. And, so, I'm sure Cascade may have gone back and they've done some contract negotiations.
I'm pretty sure all his stuff got back up. Stuff. But what was weird about Cascade is there was no warning. It was just one day.
Yeah.
Done, removed. And he's like, what the? I got no strikes. No one reached out, nothing. It just got up and removed. And I think it took less than 24 hours because it blew up. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember. But let's start wrapping up. I've got to get going in the next like 5-ish minutes. So what should artists be doing with the current copyright situation and live streaming? Is there resources they can go to license? Should they be looking at, okay, I'm going to be playing these 20 songs in this DJ set. And then they go reach out to labels and try to get licenses. I know that is a shit show. Probably not going to happen. What advice would you give to artists when they're starting to do live streaming to stay within copyright? Is there any resources you've got?
Well, let's the biggest thing we can do is let's take DJ out of the equation, because we know what a DJ is doing. 9.99 times out of 10, the tracks they're playing are somebody else's music. You take the DJ out of the equation. Use music that you can ask somebody to use the permission for to use, and get it in writing. And make sure if you're going to put it online, it's going to live there forever. Make sure you have perpetual rights to it. And then if anyone ever comes and claims, saying no, you keep that in a secured folder, locked, Dropbox, safe deposit, fireproof, safety, double triplicate form somewhere. So that way, if anyone ever comes and challenges you, you say, nope, I got the proof right here. That's pretty much it. I mean, and if you want to watch, I would say, Gordon explains it pretty much better than I do, because I give kind of the abridged version when I explain how copyright works to people in a very quick, phone version or interview version. He kind of goes down just a little bit more in the interview I just did with him, which will be coming out here on our website. It'll be up here soon. Under I'll probably put it under A-list categories, because he's pretty well known in the law world of entertainment law, and you can go there on our website, thedjsessions.com, and it's a slew of paperwork that it would just make the mind boggle, and the process and the length of process, and response time. And again, if I was coming from a major motion picture company, I said, hey, I want to use this Led Zeppelin song. They already have a music supervisor, I think is what he called it. They have that person that's in charge of doing all that. They'll say gladly, oh yeah, it's $100,000 deal. Sure, but you and I, the independent person, they don't want to field one song requests from a million people come and say, can I do this? They don't have the bandwidth for it. They don't have the person power, the people power to manage a million requests. Now you got to imagine what is it? 1 million videos a minute going up to YouTube? 1 million. I mean, that's insane. How many hours of live streaming are going out there? And if everyone had to field requests to all these companies, and you're trying to do this legally. Now, my mom worked for rights and permissions for the UW. If you put a request in and you do all your ways to expand everything in fair, like you're going out there to do it the right way, and you get nothing back, and you can document that. And when somebody comes back and he says, hey, you can say, I got this documentation. We tried, nothing ever back. So we went ahead and used it. But you got to exhaust those resources. Now she was working for the University of Washington Press. That's a book that's coming out. Okay. They knew the book. Once the book started going, they said, we want to use this picture. They start researching that and going down that pathway. And I don't know if there's a certain amount of time, like 4 months, 6 months, 1 year. They got to research back in addresses. I mean, at one point, I think she was looking up old phone books, for look up a person's name in the phone book and say, here's their address. Let's send it to this address to see if that's the address on file. And, this is a forwarding address, and they get forwarded over here, and they hear from the person, say, oh yeah, I did take that picture. Sure, you can use it for $100. And that's rights and permissions. They don't have that. That's not there. They'd rather have you say, don't use it at all than make a process that's going to make it easy for people to do this. And even then, how many songs they're going to have to make collective libraries of all this and negotiation of the libraries. I mean, so I'd say you're right that the independent artist that produces their own content is going to be king, queen, leader, whatever of you want to call it. But they're not going to realize that once they get in all this stuff, they're going to have to be their own lawyer, their own accountant, their own marketing director. You're making the money. You're going to hire somebody, but you're still not hiring somebody with the weight of the label.
Yeah, exactly.
That has attorneys on retainer. Mm-hmm. That has a internal marketing department.
They've got a team of lawyers. They've got five or 10 lawyers they can go to.
That also has, the rights to negotiate your performance contracts and get you on the circuit tours and all that fun stuff. So there's a lot that people don't look into what goes on in the mechanism behind the scenes. And the artists say, well, I only get this much of a percentage of my money from, well, they're doing all this work for you. Well, I need more money. Well, where's it going to come from? Go do it on your own. You'll find out where these legal costs come from. And then you'll say, maybe this wasn't the right profession for me. Maybe I shouldn't be using other people's content to make my content. Maybe I should be learning how to make my own content and then capitalizing on that. I
licensed the track in the intro of this.
I heard. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I think we talk about that. And I think I might mention it in the last episode. I can't remember. But yeah, every episode. I have to go I go to Soundstripe. I log in. I enter in the episode name. It's a podcast. I relicense the track every single time. Every single episode, I have to relicense it.
There was a website. I'll drop it right here, even though they're not.
By the way, if any artists need to license tracks, Soundstripe is a great company to go do it through. And even as artists, you can sign up there and start licensing your own original music, but it's costs a yearly fee that you pay. And yeah, you can use it for video, you can use it for podcast. I'm not sure if I doubt you can use it for TV and film. That's more sync. That's getting into the sync licensing stuff, which is a lot different.
Have you heard of podcastmusic.com?
No, I haven't.
Check that one out. That's what Gordon kind of turned me on to today. And that's an interesting one. It looks like they're building a library of music that you pay them a monthly fee and you'll have access to their library.
Yep. That's exactly what Soundstripe is. There's a lot of these licensing companies coming out where they're bringing on artists. They pay the artists, and artists basically create tracks for these companies to put them on their library, and they just license them out. So
okay, yeah, here it is. I got access to their entire library, and I just go genre,
Yep.
And I can scroll down and go
pick and choose. The licensing world is crazy. And this is, 2020 was huge for licensing. And I was actually just talking about this with a guy the other week I was having a lunch with. And if, I'm probably, I need to go back and do another licensing episode and talk about that. And I've got someone in mind that I'm going to try to bring on the show to talk about licensing, because 2020 was a massive year for licensing that I didn't realize until just the other day. But anyways, regardless, Darran, go ahead and plug away. For the people who haven't listened to last week's episode, where can people find you? Also, by the way, I forgot to mention, if there's any DJs out there that would like to be a part of the DJ sessions, how can they do that?
All they need to do is go to our website. I mean, if you're a viewer, go to our website, thedjsessions.com. If you want to get on the show or collaborate with us, go to thedjsessions.com and click on the register to play, request to play link. You can fill out the information there. We can work with you. We are based out of our home city of Seattle, Washington, but we are working with the wonderful thing called the internet. We can definitely do featurette segments on the show, interviews on the show. If if you just want to chat about the industry, I do interviews with people all the time. We're booking, just like what we're doing here. I was booked as a guest here, and I should have you as a guest on our show
anytime, dude. I'd love to come on.
I love talking with you about this stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. Awesome. Is that it?
That's it. That's Perfect. All I got for you. I mean, I could talk a million miles a minute, but I got shows and business and stuff to do.
Darran, thank you so much for coming on these 2 parts, man. This was such a, I hope the listeners thought this stuff was eye-opening. The last episode went really well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information. There's a ton of information here.
It is.
And we're also leaving out a lot too. That's the thing, is we're just barely scratching the surface of everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the catch, is that basically, people are going to have to start taking on their own. They're going to start having to do their own responsibility and really understanding how this works. And they're going to start getting it in their heads like, oh, they've been pirating and using music illegally for so long. The dynamic shift is, in that world, they were doing it, call it underground. There was no monitoring, no policing. Now they're trying to get into this world, and there is policing, and they want to try to treat it like that world over there. And that was all illegal action. It's the same thing with the cannabis industry. They wanted to say, let everyone do it. Let everyone sell it. Let it all be free. And they're like, no, we're trying to make this legal so we can monetize it and regulate it and all this stuff. So there has to be entities and things put in place. And people are saying, well, just make music free. You know where I'm going down with this, dude. Basically, it's people that don't understand the industry, that don't want us to understand the industry, because it kills their little ego dream of what they think they are, or the world that they're in, which a lot of people are finding out right now, going live on Twitch. Oh, great. You thought you were awesome because you had that nightclub full of 150 people once a month, but now you go live on Twitch and you get 20 viewers. Okay, you did nothing to build your brand as an online brand or online entity, and now everyone's trying to do it. You're lost in the mix. You don't have that monopoly of a nightclub anymore. You don't have a monopoly of that venue anymore where there are only 12 places or one night a week, or you were the only genre of this music being played on said night of the week, and you built that up. You didn't build, and you did that at a local level, which was a local genre of a segment of a genre within a subgenre of a genre of a certain of entertainment as a whole. And now you're up against every entertainer online, whether it's big name A-list celebrities or just zero. I don't know anyone. I'm playing a fucking guitar in my bedroom.
It's a big world out there. Lots of people trying to play,
and they are not ready for it. People are like, people ask me all the time, how are you hitting number 3 in the world on Twitch? How are you hitting number 7? How are you doing? I've been doing this for 10 years. I have 1,900 plus episodes. I produce compelling content. I have a 9,000 person subscriber base to my email that's growing every month by probably anywhere from, fucking 5 to 10%. I'm marketing on socials. What do you want?
It's a lot of work to get into this world of the industry. You got a lot of grind in there, but
and an investment. If they don't have money and they're not willing to invest in themselves, nobody just comes along and says, "Here you go. You got a good voice, but you're still gonna have to put in the work." And guess what? If I'm putting all the money in, guess who gets paid out first? The investor.
Yeah. Exactly. Always the investor and the business owner. But Darran, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon, man.
Yeah, let me know when this goes up. I'll talk with you soon too. And thank you again.
Of course. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Electronic Dance Money. As always, head to enviousaudio.com/episode 44 to check out the show notes. Head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave a review, rate the show, let me know what you think of it. Electronic Dance Money community on Facebook. Come hang out with us, talk with us. Like I said, I'm pretty sure, maybe not this episode, but the next episode, I will be doing some live streamings. I mean, quote unquote live streamings, basically premiering the episodes in that Facebook community. I'll be hanging out while the live stream is going, talking to you guys, answering questions, all that fun stuff. Come hang out. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.